Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We have got a wonderful episode for you today. After we check in with our co-host, we'll be doing our political news roundup, featuring important developments on the For the People Act, featuring the title card of Mitch versus MANCHIN. Then, just in time for Pride Month, we've got a SCOTUS ruling on discrimination that impacts LGBTQ rights, actually here in Kentucky. Then we have an interview with a clean energy entrepreneur, Edelen, to discuss his efforts to bring renewable energy to communities abandoned by coal barons. And we'll check in on how President Joe Biden's administration is supporting the work of people like Adam. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4 nonprofit. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, or CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. More information can be found at progresskentucky.org or on our social media pages on how to volunteer and support ongoing efforts. Production services and media content are provided by Couchfire Media. More information about Couchfire Media can be found at www.couchfiremedia.com. So let's check in with the co-hosts this evening. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what does your protest sign say today? Because again, we're not just some talking head show. We are a digital demonstration for a more progressive Kentucky. So you there, if you're watching on the internet, please do let us know what your protest sign says today. So mine says, help Kentucky's communities move beyond coal. My name is Aaron, and I am coming to you from Childsburg, a suburban enclave of Lexington. Let's check in with Kimberly.
Hi, Aaron and everybody. I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby and Breonna Taylor. And my sign says today, Democrats, let's just be together.
Nice. A message of unity. A message of unity. Thank you, Kimberly. And Ken, the man behind the boards, what have you got for us this evening?
I feel like my protest sign is very similar to Kimberly's. We went and visited Radio Lex earlier this week and talked about being on a terrestrial radio program. So I feel like my protest sign is very inclusive to everyone because we are all immigrants, most of us at least. So I believe that immigrants and refugees belong here. And this is what I picked up from Radio Lexington.
Nice. I couldn't really see it. You held it a little bit to the side. It was a little bit askew.
Oops.
So pop it up there one more time. Head on. There you go.
On camera. There we go.
Now I can read it. All right.
Ken is like showing us up every week. That's okay. Next week, I will have a hell of a sign. And I'm going to beat Ken Howell next week, ladies and gentlemen. You just watch.
I'm just going to point out.
I didn't, because I entirely missed putting the sign on the right. So that.
Also, and, you know, it's a great slogan. And he didn't come up with it, and it is a sticker, so it's not like he designed it. I concur. I think it's a wonderful sentiment and sign, but you know, He just picked it up off the pile. It's not like, so next week, Kimberly, you and I, we're going to, spend a little time. We're going to write it out. We're going to have it, maybe multiple colors. Who knows? Who knows what we'll have, but it'll be impressive. And you listening there on Radio Lex, you will appreciate none of it because it is not for radio, really, these signs, but we'll read them all for you, that's for sure. And I did want to say welcome to any Radio Lex listeners. We're really excited about joining the Radio Lex family, excited about having this chance to be on terrestrial radio, and we are going to follow all the guidelines so we do not get kicked off the air. That's our general goal tonight, along with the other things that we do. All right, so we're going to jump into news of the week. We've got a couple of important political stories for folks to mull over that we will discuss here with the team. Number one story of the week was For the People Action. So this is a big deal. We followed up, we're following up last week's discussion. We talked about bipartisanship, kind of whether it was dead. Right after we had that conversation, Joe Manchin delivered his take on what Congress should do to protect voting and democracy in our nation right now, which, I'll be honest, while what Manchin had kind of supported was not as expansive as the original For the People Act, he did some things that a lot of, more liberal folks have concerns about, like, allowing some measure of voter ID, which, had some people like kind of running around with their hair on fire. I thought what he kind of endorsed were definitely strong elements to voter protection, some important democracy reforms, and one of my primary concerns, looking at what's happening here in Kentucky and where things could go, is of course gerrymandering, and I think it's critically important that we limit partisan gerrymandering and that people are drawing maps, that just describe communities, not are being game to allow representatives to pick their voters so they can stay in power for as long as possible. So, he certainly endorsed that idea of an independent commission for setting districts, kind of fair maps process. And, it certainly was something that I thought was reasoned. It was relatively balanced. It was maybe not as expansive as the For the People Act. And Mitch McConnell, our man Mitch, immediately shot down what Manchin had offered as, just more of this, Democratic power grab, trying to, win elections for a generation, which, is outrageous. And no voting scholars of any sort of legitimate, background will say that, what they were trying to do is a power grab. It's a protection of voting and making voting easier for more people, which of course is not what the GOP is all about. So that proceeded, though. Earlier this week, we saw the For the People Act actually brought up, the Senate Majority Leader Schumer brought up For the People Act, and brought, every Democrat supported moving the bill into discussion or debate. Of course, every Republican opposed that, and because there are more Democrats than Republicans, that measure, of course, failed. Right. So this is the filibuster was put in place here, that Jim Crow relic, that idea that, the kind of brutal minority can stop the wishes of the majority party if they invoke the filibuster, like ongoing debate. Of course, this is not Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right? There, no one had to stand up there for hours and hours and hours and force an actual debate. This filibuster now, the way it is utilized, is garbage and is I think, is a huge problem, obviously, right? So the fact that, you had 50 senators plus the vice president who'd be willing to vote to advance this bill so they could have a debate about the bill, talk about the merits of the bill, offer amendments, etc. That was shut down by a minority of folks. So that is, I think, a real problem. And a lot of people are writing this bill off now, that it's completely dead. There's no prospects for it moving forward because they filibustered it once. I challenge that. I think that I think folks can figure out a path forward, and I think that you can do it while still maintaining the filibuster. I think filibuster reform is something that could certainly be done through simple majority. They could change the rules of what it takes to filibuster, because I don't think Mitch McConnell is going to be able to stand up there for 3 days to talk out a bill. I just really don't. I don't think he's got that in him. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Kimberly, what's your take on the For the People Act and what we saw this week?
I believe that there's a lot of behind the scenes, or what we call behind the door negotiations going on. Most definitely, we do need the For the People Act. However, MANCHIN is talking about another rendition of that, and it is sanctioned at this particular time by Stacey Abrams and also Representative Clyburn. So I understand, and my sources are telling me in DC that the reason why they're willing to give Joe Manchin's For the People Act even consideration is because the bigger picture as we go forward is the infrastructure bill. And they need his vote most definitely, because this particular vote was 50-50. We desperately need Cinema out of Arizona, and we also need Joe Manchin, as well as our Madam Vice President Harris. So at this particular time, For the People Act, it seems almost like a slap in the face, but there are conversations going on and closed back doors, and hopefully something will happen, because we do need federal rules for the entire United States as far as voting is concerned. And also, we've learned that Mitch McConnell has said that how ludicrous this sounds is that he has looked at all the states and that he sees no repression of voters. However, we know that that is a bold-faced lie, and that we know continuously that Mitch McConnell will lie. The only person that we haven't heard from as of yet that represents Kentucky is Rand Paul on this, Thomas Massey, and Andy Barr at this particular point. So we're looking to see what they're saying. However, our great representative, John Yarmouth, says that this needs to pass in some form or measure because the American people deserve it. And also, as Senator Warnock said in a very riveting speech that I did listen to, and it fired me up, he said, this is not their house. This is the house of the people, and that they owe it to the American people to make sure that everyone that is allowed to vote in America has that opportunity. Back to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, I think that's a good point. The measure that Joe Manchin supported, which was a little kind of less wide-ranging than the original messaging bill for the People Act, certainly passed muster with Stacey Abrams, because she looked at it, I think, from a very clear-cut, like, does this improve voting in America? Does it kind of hold the line in a number of states that are working to do horrible things through gerrymandering and voter suppression? She signed off on it. So if it's good enough for Stacey, it's good enough for me. That's for sure. But what I will say is it's terribly clear that they can't debate this thing on its merits. They can't win the discussion on its merits. So they're calling it, socialism and a theft of, theft of elections for Democrats, which I don't know how a nonpartisan, commission to set voting maps is partisan. It's right there in there. It's a nonpartisan commission to set the boundaries for districts, and that is not partisan. So I think that's something we need to keep an eye on, because this isn't going away. We can't let it go away. We know that 14 states have already passed voter suppression measures. There's hundreds of other bills that are being brought up, kind of even as we speak. Texas is going to be brought back into a special session so they can pass a voter suppression bill to make it harder for more people to vote. I think people are getting nervous in Texas. They saw that, it's getting closer and closer to being a competitive state. And so the Republican-dominated state legislature is doing everything in their power to keep it in Republican hands by suppressing votes, not by making it easier for people to vote, but maybe by making it harder for people to vote. So I think that's all I need to know. Ken, I know you've got some things you wanted to say about this shining example of democracy that we've experienced?
I do. Biden stated with a very pointed comment on the WhiteHouse.gov towards McConnell and Senate Republicans. He stated, "Unfortunately, a Democratic stand to protect our democracy met a solid Republican wall of opposition. Senate Republicans opposed even a debate, even considering legislation to protect the right to vote for our democracy." Biden called out the Republican legislators for participating in an ongoing assault on voter suppression that represents Jim Crow era, just like Stacey Abrams. Last week, Biden signed a truly bipartisan bill making June 19th a national holiday, and it commemorates the end of slavery in the United States. The failure of the For the People Act, just days after Emancipation Day, became a federal holiday, is a hypocrisy, and it's by the Republicans. And since reparations have not been made, and as they continue across the nation to introduce and ratify voting bills in all 50 states across the nation, Republicans are trying to suppress the vote. It's clear. There's no question. And since the Trump's big lie as a result of his election loss in 2020. Aaron?
Yep. Thanks, Ken. So we're going to move into story number 2, our second story of the week. This was actually a Supreme Court ruling. So the Supreme Court ruled this week on a Philadelphia decision. So the city of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania had worked to ensure city contracts for foster care services would align with its firmly held beliefs about equality and an end to queer discrimination. And unfortunately, the Catholic Social Services commitment to that discrimination, it was significant. So the agency would not certify gay and lesbian homes for foster care. In that decision, unfortunately, the city lost, and SCOTUS overturned lower court rulings which supported the city's efforts to end discrimination in city services. A very narrow ruling. That's, I think, what you'll probably get out of the Supreme Court time and time again, are the kind of most narrow rulings. But why would we be discussing this blow to LGBTQ rights? Is that because it's Pride Month? No, not only that, but because this disappointing ruling will have, I think, an immediate impact on a long-term fight here in Kentucky between equality champion Governor Beshear and his GOP opponents, who are doing everything they can to ensure that Sunrise Children's Services, which is a Baptist-owned social services nonprofit, can support that exact same type of discrimination that Catholic Social Services have been imposing on a government service up in Philadelphia. So that's, I think, what we saw after the SCOTUS ruling is that every Republican constitutional officer, so all the statewide folks, Dan Cameron et al., piled on Andy Beshear to say, you need to amend the contract with Sunrise Children's Services to make sure that they're allowed to discriminate against the queer community because of their, deeply held religious convictions, that's a sin. So again, I think it's the idea that we as taxpayers would fund services which are exclusionary and discriminatory is outrageous to me and offensive to me. But I guess I don't count, right? If you look at what all these folks piling on, the David Osborne, of course, Ryan Quarles, the ag commissioner, really has to have a say on this issue, right? But they're all talking about it because they want to have a chance to, I don't know, trot out their Christian bona fides. I'm a Christian, and Jesus didn't say anything about discriminating against gay people. I'll be honest. I've spent a lot of time with that Bible, and he talks a lot about love, not discriminating against gay people. So apparently we are reading different Bibles, but that's a bit of a bummer for Pride Month. Some not great news for us here in Kentucky, because it will likely have an impact on that decision with Sunrise Children's Services. Kimberly, do you have something you wanted to add on that?
I sure do. Understanding that the Catholics are coming out the agencies And getting that SCOTUS ruling was a blowback to all Americans that are part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And what I feel about that is that when they had their own scandal that continues to this day of pedophilia with the priest and others in leadership within the Catholic Church, that they should not throw stones. Okay, they're living in glass houses, so to speak. And then you're talking also about the Baptist agencies. Well, I say to that, I grew up Baptist. I still do claim Baptist, and I am a woman of faith myself. Also, understanding and knowing that the King James Version is not necessarily the version of the holy canons. So I think that people that want children, that will raise those children with the love, meaning, quantity, and quality of parentship, I think should have the actual ability to adopt. So I say to those right now, if the Baptist and Presbyterian, whoever says no and SCOTUS upholds it, let's start some other agencies for the pride community that would like to adopt children.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely, it's a need, it's a service that should be open to all, and all means all. Ken, I think you've got something you wanted to say about this one too.
I do. Whatever happened to the establishment of clause? Amendment 1, separation of church and state. The Congress, it says, the Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion and or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which is one of the reasons I read what they said and coming up with this unanimous decision, and it was to me a perversion of the Constitution. From women's health care to LGBTQ plus rights to peaceably assembling, Republican legislators are fundamentally attacking this amendment and clearly reading it wrong to me. The SCOTUS decision is a blatant attack of the Constitution, and the Supreme Court clearly will issue decrees based off of their fundamentalist beliefs instead of anything that they've actually written in the Constitution. I find it appalling that the verdict has no dissent, but presume it is because the law does little in the minds of religious fundamentalists. The LGBTQ plus community can still adopt at any adoption agents they wish, but considering most Kentucky adoption agencies are faith-based, there are very few options for good prospective parents to adopt. Across the U.S., there are more than 8,000 government-funded faith-based adoption agencies, which now have the opportunity to discriminate based on their religion and not based on anything else. I read the SCOTUS ruling, and it panders to the church in its language, and this is why the Establishment Clause was written, not to service the church. This is the very thing that the country's founders worried about, I think, when they wrote it, and it seems clear enough to me, but to me it's a perversion of what is actually said, and I think it's a failure of the judicial branch.
And welcome to round 2 of the Roberts Court. It is a court that has gotten more and more conservative, thanks in no small part to Mitch McConnell, the man of no clear guiding principles except more power for Republicans. And I think we're going to see ruling after ruling, narrow though they might be, but will have significant impacts on things that we care about. So watch that space for sure. They're picking up gun rights issues, they're picking up abortion issues. There will be decisions that will could fundamentally alter our landscape here in this Commonwealth, certainly, but our entire United States. So we will be paying very close attention to the SCOTUS rulings that'll be coming our way. But this was a blow. It certainly was a blow for people who don't like discrimination. So we're going to move on now to our very exciting guest. for this episode. Somebody that I have been impressed with for quite a while for a lot of reasons. The former auditor of Kentucky and one-time gubernatorial candidate. And now a renewable energy entrepreneur, Adam Edelen. Adam, thank you so much for joining Kernels of Truth.
It's great to be with y'all, and I'm pleased to be here on this inaugural program, man. This is a big deal. So keep it up. People who no matter how fashionable it becomes to reject equality or the belief that regardless of who you are or where you're from or who you love or the color of your skin or your gender, that you ought to have a place in this country, despite how unfashionable those American beliefs are. You guys are an important outlet making some noise, some good noise. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Yeah, good trouble. We like to fashion ourselves good trouble. Although you keep saying unfashionable. You talking about my shirt, Adam?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm talking about the sickening state of American discourse, but we can get to that later.
It's a disturbing time in our country.
It is. It is divided, and I think what really drives me crazy is that it's just dumb. I mean, I don't know how to put it any other than we're arguing over dumb stuff, and we need to raise the level of discourse in this country. And it comes from, I think, getting new people in the political system, people who have ideas, people who know how to excite and build passion for the dispossessed. The reason that the other side doesn't want people to vote is because they can't win elections if they do. And so we have to be unapologetic about engaging new people. That means engaging new ideas, and it means rejecting the same old, even when it's liberal orthodoxy, right? I mean, we've got to think of new ways to expand the base. We've got to talk about new issues to build a governing majority. And frankly, I don't know of a better one than the idea that we can simultaneously save the planet and create a bunch of new jobs in forgotten places.
Did you just transition right into the issues? That was well done, sir.
I've only been at this for about 20 years. I've gotten pretty good at it. Over the years. But again, thank you all for what you do, and I'm honored to be with you.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's dig into that. I'll tell you what. So I'm an environmentalist. I come to my work in the policy landscape and the political arena because I care passionately about our planet. That's not to say I don't care about people. That's not to say I don't think communities, need to have good paying jobs. And moving up here to Kentucky and watching, the way coal companies have treated their employees. I didn't see any problem with, being a compassionate supporter of the environment and people, and being adamantly opposed to coal companies. They have treated folks in Kentucky horribly. We had Matt Alley, who is a labor writer, former United Mine Workers organizer, and he let us know there's not a single union coal mine left in Kentucky. Right. So very just sad news. Obviously, we see black lung, showing its head again because of kind of new developments in mining, cheaper production processes, and obviously the water quality impacts are significant. We have a wonderful couple of community activists from Martin County, the McCoys, on our show a couple of times, and they've given us the kind of firsthand stories that they're living through out there because of these coal impacts. So I think we can do a lot to stand up behind coal communities because they have been 100% left behind. The coal jobs are basically gone in this state. But what do we do in those communities? What can we do to help them kind of move beyond coal? And it seems like you've got a number of great options. So please tell us a little bit about the work you're doing now.
So in short, we've got to have the courage to reimagine what the future looks like. And there are rare moments in human history where you are offered these sort of slingshot opportunities. And what we're seeing in leveraging the fight to save the planet, leveraging the opportunities that are created by the climate challenge, have produced incredible opportunities for forgotten communities. You just mentioned Martin County. In Martin County, Kentucky, we will next year we'll go to construction on reflecting a $285 million private capital investment on 2,000 acres of reclaimed mountaintop removal mine site. We're going to put back to work about 300 out of work coal miners in an industry of the future. And they'll make 25 to 30 bucks an hour over a construction span of about 18 months. And then because of a partnership we've put in place with the community and technical college system, they will leave with an academic job certification that qualifies them to work in utility scale solar projects. And it is a truth of anyone who has grown up in rural America that you drive for work. And I am working hard to build a pipeline of these projects that guarantee employment for a long time in an industry of the future. But I think what the environmental activists, of which I include myself, the climate activists, have to understand that we can't possibly get to where we need to be in terms of meeting our climate goals unless we expand the winner's circle. And that has to include coal communities. It has to include inner cities. It has to include giving people an opportunity to envision themselves a place in the future that they couldn't previously imagine. And, so that's the challenge. And we're doing it in coal country. My company is now involved in projects from Pennsylvania to Georgia to New Mexico to Montana. And all of these places, we're trying to leverage the climate challenge to create opportunities in the forgotten places of America. And it is exciting work.
Fantastic. And so I got to imagine, you've been in this game for a while. You were doing this while you were a candidate, I think, for governor, and then have been doing it since then. Things have changed politically, from the Trump administration.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Absolutely. So we now have Joe Biden in the White House, who, won't shut up about the Build Back Better and the idea of, clean energy, good paying jobs. This seems like he's, were you giving him notes? How did he pick up on all this stuff?
Well, we have been trying to lead by example. And listen, you're going to hear the doctrinaire conservatives say that we're only seeing these sustainability commitments because government is forcing it. And folks, that couldn't be anything, that couldn't be any less true. The reality of the situation is that Donald Trump took us out of the Paris Accords and the private sector shrugged its shoulders. More coal burning power plants closed down under 4 years of Donald Trump than 8 years of Barack Obama. And when you turn your television on at night and you see Amazon or Apple or Facebook or Google or Anheuser-Busch or Walmart or Toyota or General Motors talking about their sustainability goals, the way that they're accomplishing them is to buy the power generated at utility scale renewable energy projects like the ones I'm developing in Appalachia and beyond. And they're doing this not just because they want to save the planet, they're doing it because you can't sell a chicken sandwich or a Camry to a millennial when you don't have a sustainability goal. And so one of the great developments we've seen over the last 10 years is this conscious capitalism. And it's this understanding that particularly with millennials who value a commitment to climate, you have to be demonstrating that you're making the world a better place in order to increase market share. And listen, I'm ecumenical about this, whether it takes government mandates, whether it takes the market driving this behavior, I don't care, just as long as we can save the planet and create jobs in places that need them. But no doubt what we're seeing under under President Biden's leadership is this recognition that we've got to make this once in 2 or 3, maybe 4 lifetime investment in public infrastructure to get to where we need to be. Because y'all, our grid is a disaster. You guys may remember about a decade ago, a squirrel in Akron, Ohio, brought down the grid for about 2/3 of the eastern United States. This isn't how a fully functioning democracy and a dynamic economy ought to be running. And so in the president's infrastructure bill, there were a couple $100 million for grid modernization. This is important because it's the unsexy business, but it's still really important of making sure our transmission lines, which were designed for 100 years ago, can handle the load produced by renewable energy and distribute it to where it needs to go. And so these investments are huge. They're incredibly important. And, it's an exciting time to be in the space, because I think largely by behavior that's being driven by the millennials and younger, this country's back. And not only are we leading in climate, we're going to be leading in adopting and building the infrastructure to make sure that we can implement those values and save the planet.
So you mentioned some stuff that was in the American Rescue Plan, I believe, which actually, that initial influx of resources that did pass, they used reconciliation to get it through, of course, because not a single Republican would vote for rescuing America. And of course, they all subsequently took credit for a lot of the programs that were in it.
Right.
But now we've got the American Jobs Plan. So his much larger infrastructure investment. That's, as Kimberly mentioned earlier, Joe Manchin's critically important for that infrastructure package to pass. And we're not there yet. It hasn't happened, but it is far more expansive than the rescue plan. So
y'all, it's going to pass. You heard it here first. We can't not make these investments. And I know the bipartisan plan is now down to about $1 trillion and change. The irony, of course, is that the only thing I agreed with Donald Trump when he ran for president was that we needed a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. And and Trump's reasoning was sound. It was that money would never be this cheap again, and that we needed to make investments to put Americans back to work and to be able to compete globally. It's the only thing he was right about, but he was right about it. And now to hear, that the Republicans lock, stock, and barrel oppose a similarly situated infrastructure plan is just the height of hypocrisy. But even in the plan that the bipartisan Gang of 20 is working on, y'all, there's $79 billion in it for grid modernization. There's $43 million in it for climate resiliency. This is a very good start, but it is just a start, because this is the defining challenge of our time. And I think if we do this right, not only can we save the planet, we can create a lot of jobs for people who've been left out by the transition of the economy. And I think fundamentally, not just as a progressive and as a Democrat, but it seems to me that the people who literally powered the industrial development of this country for 100 years, our miners who gave their lives and their years and their bodies to make sure this country could expand economically, they ought not to be left behind just because the economy shifted. And so we owe a little something to them. And renewable energy is a great way to begin making it right for their lifetimes of labor.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I think that these, Appalachian communities that have made such sacrifices absolutely need to be prioritized in terms of having the opportunity for these jobs and these clean energy developments. Any specific stories about developments you're working on right now that you think would be compelling for our listeners to hear about?
So pay attention to Martin County. We're going to go to construction next year. And just to recap, this is a $280 million private capital investment. We're going to put about 750,000 solar panels on 2,000 acres of a former coal mine site, creating a bunch of $25 to $30 an hour jobs. We're going to train folks up. We're going to credential them. And all this is occurring about 4 miles away from where Lyndon Johnson launched the war on poverty. And so this is an example of bringing people together with big ideas for progressive means. And I think, my challenge to the movement is we can't just be about talking points and opposition to the other side. We have got to come up with real solutions, which is what the party of Obama and Clinton and Kennedy and Johnson and Roosevelt, it's what we're all about. I think our challenge is we can't just talk about, the esoteric ideas. We've got to figure out how to put our values in practice. And when we do that, y'all, even when we lose, like on the Voting Rights Act, I guarantee you the majority of the American people believe that it ought to be easier for people to vote in this country rather than harder. We need to be talking about climate change because it's important to save the planet, but we also need to be talking about leveraging this opportunity to create jobs for out-of-work coal miners. This is what we've got to do. These are dots that we've got to connect, and we're not great at it as a party or as a movement. Our mottos don't end up on bumper stickers. That's not who we are. But what we've got to do is manifest our talking points and our values into real action. And I don't think there's a better opportunity in our lifetime to do this than fighting climate change and investing in infrastructure.
100% agree with you. Thanks so much. Kimberly, do you have a question for Adam?
Yes, I sure do. Good to see you today.
Good to see you, Kimberly. How are things?
Things are going wonderful and great, but they could be better if we were able to pass President Biden's infrastructure plan. And as you brought up Martin County just a moment ago, I do understand that the White House called someone here in Louisville in Jefferson County, Ms. Betsy Foster, and they were able to go into Martin County and some surrounding counties to see exactly what was going on. Do you think that this video that they've made and that the White House actually came to Kentucky, is this going to be more money for Kentucky? And then second question I would like to ask you is this, Mr. Edelen, how important will climate be to campaigns in 2022 and 2024? I believe that sometimes we as Democrats, we have a messaging challenge. I don't want to call it a problem, challenge, because people are most definitely confused about the Green New Deal. Do you think that we as Democrats have enough time to get some of the message out there that can be easily embraced by all Americans as far as climate is concerned? And also the previous question, do you think the White House coming to Kentucky will bring more money?
Awesome questions. Let me start with the latter. Climate's going to matter a lot. And what I'm excited about in the climate, in just the political space, is it's now a fundamental box that you've got to check if you're going to talk to millennial voters. And now millennial voters are the largest block of voters in the American demographic. So this issue is just going to become more important, not less important. And it's a fundamental issue that these young people aren't going to permit candidates to gloss over, which is hugely important, right? And so I'm awfully excited about that. I think you are 100% right about our messaging challenge. What we've got to do is we've got to distill our climate messaging to the way it impacts people's lives. Kimberly, my dad's a farmer. Farmers believe in climate change because over the span of 40 or 50 years, they're now planting and harvesting in fundamentally different seasons on the same crop. They know that the climate has changed. Same with hunters, right? I mean, it's the hunting, sportsmen, our outdoor enthusiasts know that the climate changed because we're seeing differences in migratory patterns and wildlife behavior than we used to. So it's about connecting the dots to the way regular people view politics is through the prism of their own life. And we can connect this. And when we talk about, the reason that, climate change is impacting, your little league season, climate change is impacting our growth seasons in agriculture, but we can leverage the fight against climate change to create jobs in the community in which you live, good jobs. This is where we've got to get, because if we continue to make the science argument and we feel like the elites talking back and forth, we're not connecting. And so, the way that we can drive impact is that, America and its allies ought to be the primary manufacturer of solar panels in this planet. And the truth is we're not. The Chinese, who, if you're going to be polite and gentle, are a strategic competitor, if otherwise they're an enemy. They've got 80% of the global supply chain for solar panels, which are the crude oil of the future. And so whatever it takes to get people motivated into this, to moving in the right direction, we need to do it. But we got to recognize there are a lot of touch points. And so for some, it's jobs. For others, it's environmental sustainability. For others, it's a hybrid of the two. We've got to have people who are deft at making that argument. And then to close out the other question, Kimberly, winning an argument means showing up. And so am I thrilled that the White House was in Martin County, Kentucky? I'm absolutely thrilled. I mean, this is a community that has been destroyed by the disappearance of an economy that we should have contemplated that it was moving away. And we haven't been present. And politics is a lot like a game show, y'all. You must be present to win. And so showing up in Martin County, showing up in communities of color, and understanding that we can't just win campaigns on Twitter or on TV. We got to get back to the people. And if we're going to be the party of the people, it means we got to engage the people where they live and speak to them in a way in which they can hear us. And we've not done a great job of that. And so, no pressure here, y'all, but it's the fate of Western civilization and the planet that's sort of on the shoulders of those of us who believe that government can be a force for good and that we can do things together that we can't accomplish independently. And so we got to be a broad church. We got to speak to people who we previously haven't spoken to, and we got to get out and do the big, important things. But it takes ideas and passion. That's what we've got to leverage. This isn't science, it's art. And in the political arguments are not science. Everything else ought to be. But we've got to be passionate. We got to believe what we say, and we got to be excited about spreading the message everywhere.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adam. Ken, I don't know if you've had a point you want to raise quickly, but happy to throw it over to you.
I want a bunch of buttons. Hey, it's good to see you. I've been looking into buying solar panels for my house for quite some time now. And I'm just really excited because I think we covered this a couple months ago, like how the energy companies were going to like exchange the rates and stuff like that, and making the energy that I produce on the top of my house like less effective. But I guess what I kind of want to know is what are the economic are the economic benefits of putting it on our houses still viable if you're doing a larger
great question, and they are, and what the technological advances that are occurring are going to be able to do in all of our lifetimes is democratize power production. And what that means is we will have the power figuratively and literally, rather than relying on monopoly utilities. And so this is one of the things that's really tough about living in Kentucky is that our legislature a couple of years ago gutted our net metering bill. And previously net metering was based on the sound belief that the utilities ought to have to pay you for the power that you generate through your solar panel. They ought to have to pay you exactly what they charge us for the power that comes in our house, right? Fair is fair. And so the legislature, after unsuccessfully, but finally, essentially gutted that bill, gutted that law, and it got kicked to the Public Service Commission. Now, recently, the Public Service Commission, which is appointed by the governor, surprised a lot of us solar advocates by preserving the value of the energy that we produce on our homes and then sell back to the grid when we're not using it. What we need are more protections. What we need is to get in the game. We're not there yet in Kentucky, but I think the federal government is picking up the slack. The credit that we get for making the investment, I think, is likely to go back up. And this is exciting. So yes, the economics work, and it also puts you on the right side of history. Unfortunately, Kentucky is not yet in the game and envisioning a renewable energy future. It's my hope that we'll get there, but it's going to be a grassroots movement because we can't rely on a legislature unduly influenced by special interest and utilities and some others to build the future. The best way to do that is for us at a grassroots level to get out and use renewable energy when we can. And to spread the gospel, because ultimately we're going to build a movement here, just like we did the civil rights movement, just like we did the movement for affordable health care. We will be successful because we are on the right side of history. This is a market force, and companies and governments that fail to adopt a renewable energy strategy are going to be wholly irrelevant to the new economy. And so, our hope is that we can speed Kentucky up. My fear is that we're falling behind, but the outcome is inevitable.
Well, your projects definitely make it sound like we're headed in the right direction, at least on some scale. I concur completely that Kentucky as a kind of state and with policy is very much behind, is not doing much to acknowledge the realities of climate change, and very little in terms of policies to address those that challenge. So I do concur, though, that there's a whole heck of a lot of private companies that understand the value and know that they
That's
need
right,
to.
Aaron. And but like one thing that Governor Beshear could do tomorrow, and that I hope he will do before he is a candidate for re-election, is how in the world in the year 2021 does the state of Kentucky not have a public sustainability goal? Louisiana, which has been dependent on oil and gas as Kentucky was coal, literally has a plan in the next decade or so to be 100% renewably powered. Leadership matters, folks. And we at the grassroots, the people who knock on the doors, who write the small checks, who skin our knuckles, getting the message out, have a right to demand more aggressive and ambitious leadership in the places we care about. And this is a key area where Kentucky could make great strides by joining Louisiana, y'all. I mean, come on. Most of all the other progressive states have sustainability commitments. Kentucky ought to join. In Cincinnati did a power purchase agreement, built a solar farm about an hour away to power the government operations of that city. That is a creative, innovative approach. This is happening all over the country. When we say, why not Kentucky, the issue is leadership.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing the work you're doing, sharing the views on how we advance these critical renewable energy commitments we need to be making, and sharing the great news about the Biden administration and the investments they're making and plan to make with the new, and heard it from Adam Edelen, it's going to pass. The infrastructure bill is going to pass. It ain't Trump. It's not infrastructure week again and again and again. It is going to get done under Joe Biden, and Mitch McConnell can't stop it.
Thank you all. The one thing I want to extend to you before we leave is let me know when we can coordinate calendars. I'd love to offer a field trip.
Oh, fantastic. We're vaccinated here on this show. This is a show that's got 100% vaccination rates. We are ready to get outside and see some solar panels. All right. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you all so much.
All right, so moving on, we are speaking of vaccinations. Let's help vaccinate the bluegrass. Let's do this. Join members of Progress Kentucky and other community groups Saturday to help educate folks about mobile pop-up vaccination clinics that are available in Lexington neighborhoods. The way this is going to work, if you've helped out with a political campaign, it's going to feel very similar. You're going to go out and knock on doors, but you're not asking for a candidate, a vote for a candidate. You're just letting people know that there is a pop-up vaccination clinic in their community that they can take advantage of, ASAP. This is a proven model to help drive vaccination rates up, and we've got more to do here in Fayette County. We are, I think, third in the Commonwealth in terms of our vaccination rates in Fayette County. Let's be first, and let's help drive up our overall Commonwealth average to get to where we need to be healthy. So that's June 26th at 1 p.m. You can sign up right now with an event link that should be on the screen or in the chat. So that is our call to action. Let's check in on the group. Are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? You can join Progress Kentucky right now. We are very, very, very close to 4,000 likes on Facebook. Please go check us out. Like us, invite some friends to like us. We know that Facebook is not the ideal platform, but it's where people are. And that's how we need to communicate the campaigns and the issues that we're tackling by going right there. So we know our Commonwealth needs more kernels of truth to call out the propaganda and the ridiculous claims of folks like Mitch Rand, Massey, Andy Barr, and we are hatching a plan to reach out to our neighbors and mobilize folks around the state to join us and take action. But it's going to take you, and it's going to take some resources. So we are going to print some postcards, we're going to add some handwritten messages, and we are going to spread the word about how we can turn Kentucky purple. We got a goal of raising $1,500 for this project, and we are less than 20% of the way there. So please consider making a donation right now. Go hit us up on Act Blue, make a donation to support this campaign. And we are also looking for more volunteers. Are you interested in helping put together a bi-weekly newsletter? Can you bird dog your own representative on social media and share when they embrace Q or the big lie, or just generally, say ridiculous things? If you can do that, you can watch them do it. You can screenshot it. You can send it to us. We can share it out. Make sure that we highlight how outrageously ridiculous our lawmakers are quite frequently here in Kentucky. We got to hold them accountable. You can join us by heading to join pro KY on that bit.ly link right there. So next week on Kernels of Truth, we are super excited. We are going to be joined by Denise Bell. Denise Bell is a refugee and migrant rights researcher. She's an expert on what many folks say is a critical issue in the culture wars. If you recall, Trump, to try to save his midterm elections, pointing to scary caravans coming across the border. We're going to get to the truth of refugee and migrant rights with Denise Bell, and we'll talk about the facts of the matter. People are very scared of immigrants. Why are they scared of immigrants? We're a nation of immigrants. Let's talk about that. So, and now we're moving into our action events calendar. Let's Do This is a campaign to get the city of Lexington and surrounding communities vaccinated. Members of Progress Kentucky will be joining others in the community to help educate folks about mobile pop-up vaccination clinics available in Lexington. The event is this Saturday, June 26th at 1 p.m. at Wolf Run Park. More information can be found at bit.ly/LexCanVax. So you can sign up there online if you'd like more information. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4. We're affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, or CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. More information can be found at progresskentucky.org about how to volunteer and to support our ongoing efforts. Production services and media content are provided by Couchfire Media. Couchfire Media ignites multi-camera live stream, fiction, narrative, nonfiction, educational, informative, animation, and commercial video production content. There's nothing Ken can't do. More information about Couchfire Media can be found at www.couchfiremedia.com. You can check out our co-hosts in other formats and venues. The Jones Report is a weekly live national local news, talk, and conversation show that occurs every Tuesday at 7 p.m., hosted by Mike Breuer, Betsy Foster, and Kimberly Cecil Jones. The Jones Report radio program can be found on Facebook at the Jones Report Radio. Thank you, Nate, for the theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. This is WLXU 93.9 LPFM Radio Lexington, the voice of the people. The views expressed on Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth and our guests are not necessarily the views of Radio Lex and its board of directors. The views expressed on Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth are our own. Thank you so much for joining Kernels of Truth. I will go ahead and acknowledge that was a different close than we have ever done before. If you have not caught on, we are now not just live streaming on Facebook. We are now not just a podcast that you can listen to after the fact. We are not just a YouTube channel, but we are also on terrestrial radio. So listen to Radio Lex, and you will hear us, I think, Thursdays at some point. I don't know if we've gotten it quite pinned down about when, but it's exciting. It's a change for us. We had to change our run of show. We had to write. You heard a few things there. You're like, wait, I already heard that. That's okay. We're going to clean that up in production. I'm sorry that you maybe heard that twice. That wasn't my goal. You're like, why? Wait, why is Aaron saying this stuff?
It's all about, you can't, with public radio, it's phrasing. You can't say, I need you to do this. That's not a thing.
We cannot compel people to do anything.
Say, if you want to do this.
Just to be clear, though, if you have seen our rates, we aren't compelling that many people to do very many things. But the phraseology of how we encourage people to check out a website really matters. And we do not want to get Radio Lex in trouble. But you might have been wondering, where's Kimberly? How come Aaron's saying stuff that Kimberly says every week? And that's because we did not have our act together today, and we were not completely organized. I'll be honest. Kimberly, are you okay with how I said that?
No. However, no, you did a great job. However, I was there. I just clicked off for a moment to look at a few things. But I just would like to just say what I say every week. Do something nice for somebody. It doesn't cost you anything to give a smile, to give some great wisdom or encouragement. And I'm just a firm believer that when you're helping others, you are in turn helping yourself.
Yeah, that's some good energy. This universe needs more good energy. Thanks for sharing that, Kimberly. Kenton, speaking of good energy, anything you want to close us out with? Anything you got to say?
I feel like we've done the close like 3 times now. This is
We
fourth.
really have.
The show's over. Go home. You don't have to stay here. You can't stay here. We won't be here.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, that's it.
I think we should do that like classic Ferris Bueller's close, right? So we run the credits, walk away, we come back. What? You're still here? Go. We watched Ferris Bueller with my daughter the other day, and she thought it was hilarious. It is held up well, just in case anyone is like me, old, and hasn't watched it in a while.
Should we stop?
I feel like we should probably stop. We probably should have stopped
time to play
a couple of stories ago. Have we played the closeout music yet?
We have not played the close yet. I always wait for a cue. You say things, and then I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
That's the cue. Oh wait, I guess it's
That's
not.
the cue.
He's talking. All right.
All right. I'm gonna cut you guys off. You're off. You're cut off.